Good. So welcome to Activism 101. I'm so happy that you all are here. I was inspired to put this class together after the craziness of the special session. And I think if we all can remember, like it was yesterday, it was chaotic. It was crazy. We were running around. We were, do we go to this room? Do we go to this room? How does the bill travel? And when are we supposed to testify? All of these questions, because there were so many new people at the Capitol, which was awesome. I loved seeing a packed Capitol. I think that is an activist dream come true. And, when we do calls to action and you get 10 people there, it can be discouraging. And when you see the Capitol full of activists really trying to get in control of their own freedom, it's super inspiring. But we're only effective if we are where we need to be at the right time, ready to testify. And of course, special session was a little bit unique, and it's definitely, I think, easier during regular session. But you'll find that we have very short notice and very limited time to get our point across, much like special session. So how can we be the most effective? Well, when I first got active really in health freedom, I didn't know anything. I was never political. And of course, like many other activists, my freedoms were being infringed upon, and that got me active as an activist. And that's what's happening with you all right now, is your freedoms are being infringed upon and you want to get active. So I thought, what better way to help you all than the people who helped me? Representative Heather Scott, now Senator Christy Zito, were immensely helpful to us and still are. And Greg, who's going to be presenting in a little bit, he really helped us learn how to hold legislators accountable. And it wasn't until we started doing that that we started seeing some change as well. So I just wanted to bring this team together to empower you to get active in defending your freedom and pushing this, this tyranny back so that we can have liberty. So I hope that you will, I know that you will. You'll find each of these individuals helpful. I think Heather has been amazing at getting people active. If you're not receiving her emails, you should, because her emails are constantly empowering you and educating you with how to get in control of your freedom. Hold legislators accountable, what you need to know about the bills that are coming. She puts a lot of time and effort into those newsletters, which I have always appreciated. Now Senator Christy Zito, I'm going to have to work on that.
No, but now just wait. In all fairness to who is not President-elect Biden, you're not elect until the vote's certified.
That's right. That's right. Well,
so we're still good with representatives.
And we need more good senators, so that's something to work on the next time around. So anyway, I think you'll find the lineup to be really great. If we can just put our questions in the chat, then that will give the presenters their time, their block of time to present. And then I can read off the questions when they're done, and they can answer the questions for you. So I'm really excited that you all are here, and it was by invitation because I know you all want to get active, and I just want you to have the tools to do that. So let's go ahead and begin. Sarah, of course, my partner in health freedom and a superhero in my mind. She has a brilliant law brain, and I couldn't do anything that I do without her. So she knows how to get that bill started, printed, through the House, through the Senate. In a perfect world, that's how it would go. So she's going to tell you how to do that. So fill us in, Sarah.
Well, I'm not sure that any of us know how to definitely make that happen, but I'll tell you the process. So I know a lot of us have seen or remember from elementary school, the Schoolhouse Rock song about I'm Just a Bill. I mean, everything they teach you in that is accurate, but of course they leave out a ton of the details that we had to learn the hard way. So I wanted to just kind of run down really quick what the process looks like in real life when you are trying to run a bill. So you start out, you know, with a great idea, or in a lot of cases, laws that are already on the books that we would like to see changed. So that's where it starts, is a citizen of Idaho has an idea or something they would like to see changed. You know, they find a representative or a senator that agrees with that idea. And side note here, in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily the one that represents you. I mean, you can definitely start there in your own district with your 2 representatives and your senator. But actually, I was thinking about it today, in all of the bills that we've worked on, it has not been one of our own representatives or senators that has carried those bills for us. It's often someone from another part of the state. So don't feel like you're, you know, restricted to the people that represent you. You can go to any representative or senator and pose your idea. In some cases, you know, you, the person, the citizen, is the one that starts writing the draft, pulling up Idaho code, looking over what's there, you know, lining through what you don't like, coming up with the idea. In some cases, the representative or the senator that's going to be the bill sponsor is the one who writes it up. In some cases, it's an attorney. In a lot of cases, it's a collaboration of a lot of people. So you come up with an initial draft. From there, your bill sponsor has to write a little slip that says the Legislative Services Office, the LSO. You'll hear people at the Capitol call it LSO. That's Legislative Services Office. From there, your draft goes to them, and their job is to do a ton of research. They look at what your idea looks like, what that is going to do to that section of code, how that will impact other sections of code, what that looks like for our administrative rules. They do a ton of work kind of in the background to look at what this could really look like in real life. And they also look at your draft and kind of tear it apart and reword it and rework it and make sure that it's going to be kosher with all the other sections of code around it. Often that's a long process of months of emails back and forth, you know, working on every single word, making sure that everything is going to work properly. Once everybody is happy with the draft that has come out of LSO, at that point, your legislation is a routing slip. You'll hear people at the Capitol say RS, and I know, like, when Misty and I started, we had no idea what RS even meant. So an RS is a routing slip, and that is kind of the initial idea in the form that the Legislative Services Office has approved of, and it's ready to move actually to the very first real step of its journey. So at that point, your bill sponsor, whether it's a representative or a senator, really quick on that, a bill idea can start in either house. It can start in the House if you're working with a representative, or it can start in the Senate if you're working with a senator. It goes through the same process. It just goes either one way or the other way, but it has to go through all the same steps, whether it starts in the House or the Senate. So at that point, your bill sponsor, for this example, let's just say we're starting in the House. So your representative, that's your bill sponsor, would go to the chairman of the House committee that's the appropriate place for that bill. And you figure out which is the appropriate committee based on the content of your idea. If it's an education idea, it would go to the education committee. If it's a health issue, it would go to health and welfare. You know, we have committees for everything, agriculture, education. And so it just depends on the content of your legislation, which committee would hear it. So the sponsor of your idea goes to the chairman of the appropriate committee and asks for a print hearing, which is the very first step for an RS, is to go to its print hearing. This is a good time, I think, to remind everyone of one of the many reasons why elections are so important. Everybody that we put at the Capitol has the opportunity to be put in one of those chairmanships. And they have a lot of power, because this is the very first point where your idea can just die. If the chairman, chairwoman says, nope, I don't like this idea, you do not get a print hearing, that's the first step where your idea can just go right in the trash. So it's very important who we elect, because they have a lot of power. If your bill sponsor is granted the print hearing, then it is put on the agenda for that hearing. That is its initial first reading. The bill sponsor presents the idea to the committee. There is no public testimony at a print hearing. It's just where the committee, for the very first time, hears the idea. At that point, they vote on it. And if a majority of the committee likes the idea, it is then called printed. And that's where it actually finally becomes a bill. So it is printed as a bill. It gets a bill number. At that point, the committee chairman will then put it on the agenda in the same committee for a bill hearing. And this one is where they actually will take public testimony. The committee will again hear the idea. Now that it's a bill, they will take public testimony, and then they will vote on it again. If the committee, after hearing all the testimony, again votes, a majority votes in favor of the idea, it has now passed out of committee, and it goes to, in this scenario, the House floor, because in this one we're talking about starting on the House side. At that point, your bill sponsor again will present the idea that is passed out of committee to the entire House of Representatives, and they can discuss it, and they can debate it, and they can talk about it for hours and hours and hours sometimes. And then at that point, the full House will then vote. And if a majority of the House likes your idea and it passes through the House, that's when it has now passed the House of Representatives and is transmitted over, in this scenario, to the Senate side. Now it's going to start its journey again. So a Senate committee chairman, the appropriate committee on the Senate side, now has the power to decide, even now with it having passed the House, that chairman on the other side, in the Senate side, gets to decide whether or not your idea gets a hearing on that side. It can die, it can get a hearing, it can be discussed and edited before it gets a hearing. I mean, at every point of this, there can be a ton of discussion and all kinds of things that go wrong. So if you are granted a hearing on the Senate side, then it goes to that committee. They take public testimony in the Senate committee. They vote on it in that committee. If a majority vote for it, it passes out of the Senate committee and goes to the Senate floor. Same thing again. The senators, all of the senators from all over the state on the floor can discuss it, they can debate it, they can ask to make changes to it, and then they vote on it. If a majority of the entire Senate floor likes your idea and votes for it, then it has passed both the House and the Senate, and that is when it could go to the governor's desk to be either signed into law or vetoed. It can die again on the governor's desk. He can veto it and it dies there. So there's a million places where your idea has the opportunity to die, which is very frustrating because it's a ton of work, and at every stage of this, you know, everything can just fall apart. One other thing I think that's important to remember too about this is that even if your bill is passed out of the House, passed out of the Senate, signed into law by the governor, the process doesn't completely end there. At that point, the appropriate department of the state that this affects is tasked by the legislature to write administrative code pertaining to how your new law is going to be implemented and how that's going to look in real life practice. And so something we've found as we've been doing this for years is that that's where the real impact on our freedom can be, is in those administrative rules. A lot of people pay attention to what's in Idaho code, but they don't really even understand or know about the administrative code and the administrative rules. And so it's really important for citizens to keep their eyes on those rules and on what the departments of the state are doing with those rules. That was where, you know, in our case, the biggest example has been the vaccine exemption form. That was where that came out of. We have a section of code that says you have a right to be exempt, but then in the administrative rules is where the Department of Health and Welfare wrote that to be exempt, you have to sign a form written by the state. And that's not what it says in Idaho law. So it's very important to understand that what it says in Idaho law doesn't necessarily transfer over to those administrative rules, and that those rules are what really affect people's day-to-day lives. If everything I just said makes no sense and is super overwhelming, like, don't feel bad, because it's taken me years to understand all of that. And that's even with my bachelor degree was public law and political philosophy, and I still started as an activist and had no idea what a routing slip was. So do not feel bad if this is overwhelming or confusing, or it takes a long time to understand the process.
And we still learn new things because things will happen and we'll be like, can they do that? You know? So yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for a few years now and we're still learning. So I agree. Don't expect to know it all today, but at least having some kind of an idea as we go through the process. So if there's a bill that you're following, if you listen to Sarah, we're going to record this and share it. But as the bill goes through the process, at least you can follow the bill a little bit better as you know where it's going. And it does take some practice. So, you know, you've got people to ask.